In this video, we're going to have a look at Salt Lake City, Utah. First, I'll have a look at the historical narrative, and then we'll get into a bunch of visuals. And I'm not going to beat it into the ground. The historical narrative, if you're familiar at all with this channel, we question the narrative. That's what we're doing. I'll give you a quick blurb here that I found a little bit comical, though. The settling of Salt Lake City dates back to 1847 with the arrival of the Latter-day Saints, led by Brigham Young. Love that name. He's recorded as stating this is the right place, drive on, and he had seen it in a vision. They found the broad valley empty of any human settlement. Isn't that convenient? And then we have a little blurb. There was a Native American population, but an outbreak of measles during the winter previous to their arrival killed many of them. And that's part of the story. It goes on to explain a little bit more of that early time. I like to get to the demographics before we look into a lot of the visuals. So if you have a look at the historical timeline here, starting in 1850, working to modern day around 200,000. This is the area we're going to be looking at. A lot of the buildings built between 1860 and somewhere in 1920. So 1920 we cap out just over 100,000. Many of these buildings will have been said to have been put up right in this area of time here. So 50,000 tops, let's say. Now we start to roll through the visuals, give you an idea of what Salt Lake City might have looked like. Some incredible detail here. Now, this is an interesting phenomenon that will come up a few times, the Solitaires. According to my research, this was the second one that burnt down. I don't believe much of that historical narrative at all. I suspect there were several at the same time. Here's another one. Spectacular building that no longer exists, burnt down several times. It's a silly narrative, and no longer in existence now on the Great Salt Lake. Now we have a peek at what it looks like in town, and you have this heavy infrastructure of electric streetcars, which you find all over. Another look at the Solitaire Beach Pavilion. You see this in certain areas. I know Galveston has some areas in the south coast of the UK. Also, these structures are really quite a feat of engineering and construction. Picture it all being built on the water on these posts, and then you're going up how many stories? 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5. I mean, and the dome. It's just, I don't know how we squeeze it into the little box that we call our historical narrative. It's just that box is bursting at the seams. This one interesting too, also having a bit of a dome in the background there. I always like the contrast of the modern day brutalist architecture and what I like to call the old world. And I've mentioned this recently as well. I am really interested in the old hotels, like the ones you see there. I have a video in the works on that, and the what might have been behind those. There's something to that lifestyle in the old world, I suspect. The interior finish on those buildings is just unbelievable. Speaking of, here's a good view of the Solitaire. Look, we have train coming into the Solitaire over the water. I'll say that again. We have a train coming in over the water. Yeah. No wonder it's no longer in existence. And of course, no shortage of architectural splendor or brickwork or stonework in Salt Lake. Has been covered extensively by people like John Levi. Lives close to there, I do believe. Here's the Capitol building. If you do a search for this building, you're going to find all sorts of construction photos. And of course the construction photos, looking like so many more of the construction photos of state capitals that were supposedly had been built within the 1900s. And I have theorized that this reset that we're talking about really came with a hard stamp after what we call World War II and the introduction of pop culture, television, all that kind of what we call, I don't know, westernization, I suppose, Americanization. So I think even when we're looking at buildings with a build date in the early 1900s, I think you got to really put the question mark on it. Here's the interior of the Union Station. Look at that, hey? I just love those curves. This photo from 1910. How old does this wall look to you? How was it built? Looks heavily damaged to me. High schools. Theaters. Ooh, this town. One for theaters. Unbelievable. The Orpheum, this one. This is... Have a look at. It's not a great photo. It'd be nice if it was a little crisper, but you get a sense of how amazing that looks, and I'll show you some from the interior. This would be the pipe organ within the temple, Mormon temple itself. We'll get to that. A lot of poles too. Notice how many poles, like that center row. A lot of poles, and a lot of people will say telegraph. I don't know. I don't know if it was all for that purpose. It seems a bit overkill. And there's no shortage of poles, flagless poles, with a ball on top. And a lot of this sort of abandoned look you're going to see too. You get this dirty. What I think, a lot of people think it's mud roads. I think this is actually has all that brick underneath it. I think we have a layer of mud that hasn't been cleaned off yet. That's how I look at a lot of these. And in some cases, I think they've been removed and to reveal the mud underneath. So that's just what I suspect from my research. This is a good one in color, giving you an idea of, the visual, how visually pleasing this type of architecture is. And you can also see the levels, how it drops down here. Also buildings that curve on street corners. I always like those. It's a very unique look. We don't do that these days very much. And if you throw in arches wherever you can. There's that Union Station we saw the interior of earlier. And then the question is, like, why did you have to build with all the stone and brick, right? This is supposedly the one that replaced the ones that burnt down on the Solitaires. I think still standing, this one. You get a bit of an amusement park, almost seems like a mockery. There you have that stone wall look again. Looking very old. But all built into, also all part of the same architecture as that, looking the same as that. In this period of time too, we're getting, from most of these photos, you're getting like a doubling of the population of Salt Lake over this duration. And a lot of these buildings looking somewhat either run down, abandoned, like they've been there a while. It's a very unique feature here too, the Bransford apartment house. It's not quite a dome. It's got like an extended bit up there. Interesting. Here you have that eagle archway again. A little bit suspect here too. This is obviously an early time period with the horse and buggy. And then these in existence, these building 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories. It's just kind of everywhere. And they're down under the ground here. Here's the temple. I don't want to say too much about this. This one, another one too. You look it up, it's like, oh, here's pictures of construction. Took 40 years to do, and nothing's consistent or makes any sense. So, a huge cover story, I think there. This no longer here. Saw that one in an earlier photo. And like I said about the hotels, don't often look like much on the surface. More similar to what we're used to, but a lot more decoration on the old world hotels and apartments type buildings. And sometimes you get this on the corner as well. And there's the Elks Club. What is it? Is this going in under the ground? This is strange. Elks Club again. YMCA. And then you have to take it into account too, all these old buildings having these basements. So right away we instantly have to assume excavation took place, like deep excavation. To support how many floors? All going on really in the early days. What do they say? They use steam shovels and all that type of thing. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. It's a lot of work. A lot of work. But we have this healthy skepticism behind this channel. So here, as you can see, no shortage of structures, old world structures here in Salt Lake. Here you have that energy tech going on here with the old Presbyterian church. There's a columns almost. Be nice to see this one in a bit crisper photo. Couldn't find any. With the largest ballroom in America, the Coconut Grove. And here's a couple from the Latter-day Saints University. So these things were just going up like wildfire. And here's the character himself, Brigham Young, with his 21 wives. Founder of the church in that area. Or of the area, I suppose. Definitely a shady backstory there. This is the front of the Cathedral of Madeleine I showed earlier. Just wanted to give you a sense of the intricacy of the work that's gone on these buildings. Here we have a convention of interesting characters agreeing on a constitution for the state of Utah. This is the City and County building. You'll see that in a later photo. We can look a little closer. We see the same poses we always see with some of these old shady characters. And I say shady because everything in here looks shaded in, doesn't it? Black and white and gray. There it is, the City and County building. I'll give you a minute here. This really is something else and has been featured, like I said, on people like John Levi's channel. Unbelievable. Oh, I like this one too. The Boston and Newhouse buildings, sort of sister buildings across the street from each other. Very unique feature. And we've got a Castle Brewery. Could have called it an armory, but I think they called it a brewery instead of an armory. So this is the Desert Gym. So at first glance, they don't look like much, right? If we look a little closer, you start to see the details that give away old world, the arches, features here, and then we have, of course, the flagless flagpoles. I always find interesting too these awnings that were all over the old world. I'll have to look a little closer into those one of these days as well. Seem to be part of the old structure. And we have East High School, of course, right? Why wouldn't you? You have to build the high school, and the main doors on the second level, right? Oh, here's a theater built by the man himself. Some of these I actually don't have names for. Have a look at this building though. Woo. Don't you just love that feature? No shortage of these style buildings all over the States. Here we have the Fremont School. So this is interesting. This was basically laying empty for a long time. I think it was torn down in the 20s, right at a time when the population of the city was more than doubling. That's a hole in the narrative, as far as I can see. Makes no sense. If you have that many people coming into your town at that short of period of time, you're going to use whatever structure is available, modify it, renovate it, whatever you need to do. Makes no sense. So we're looking at the elimination of the past. And then, of course, the repurposing and the renaming and the reclaiming by the inheritors. The ones with the famous pose in the photos that we see, letting you know that there's something going on that you're not aware of, but they are. I feel like they're in on the joke. Well, jig's up, boys. Jig's up. This is the Joseph Smith Memorial Building. Wow. I had to come back here, look at that. Who finishes like this? Who could do this now? And for what price? Like, wow. That's incredible. Another school. Looking very mud flooded. A few other things about Salt Lake City is apparently where the first transcontinental railroad met, which again, I question the narrative on that. Railroads is a whole different, there's a lot more to railroads than what we've been told, is my suspicion. And there's organizations such as this keeping that from our eyesight, from our knowledge. This would be a Masonic temple you can see there. Of course, you got to have these Sphinx type things out front because it's just a bit of fun. Here's an old Masonic hall there. There's a Solitaire again. I like to go for a day on the beach on the Solitaire. Looks like it'd be a lot of fun. Okay, this would be the Pantage Theater. I wanted to show you a couple from this. Again, you have a look at the detail here. I don't even know if we can even comprehend this detail. Pretty amazing. This is from Ogden, a town nearby. Just wanted to show that to give you an idea of it's not just going on in Salt Lake City, it's all over the region. Another theater, the Orpheum. It's very cultured, right? We have to assume we're looking at a very cultured community. There's the Pantage. You get a sense again for some of the detail there. It's neighboring building. Right there, sorry. And another interior shot of the level of detail you would have seen in that theater. And again, have a look at that. I don't know how you ever let anything like that get derelict enough to tear down. Here you have a sense of the interior sort of common area, foyer. Can you get a sense of how flat the floor is there? Tile work. All you tile setters out there, I know it can be done, this can be done, but for what price and for how much time with modern equipment? There's the Salt Palace Theater, yet another theater. So another group of gentlemen sworn to secrecy here. So you probably didn't think too much of castle type buildings being here in a place like Salt Lake City if you hadn't looked into it before, but surprise, surprise. There's so much more than we've been told. And here's the prison, which is also built like a castle. We're coming to the end. We see the interior of that state capitol building we saw just a few frames ago. Supposedly built early 1900s. Yet another theater. I suspect it's the inside of the Strand. Not a great photo, but again, you get a sense for, I don't know, even the age. Could you envision this being somewhere in Europe? Of course. Some Bavarian theater of some sort. Oh, this is Salt Lake City. You get this type of thing going on in the streets at a time period where the reset is really taking hold. All the questioners have been institutionalized, sent off to war, all the rest of it. It's an interior shot of the temple. And a construction shot of the temple. I don't know, do these gentlemen look like they have any idea what they're doing? Or how to move these around? I don't know. Go for a swim, refresh yourself. The old Tribune Building, this has got some really nice detail on the top here. So if you wherever you live, take a look. In your downtown core typically is where you're going to find these. They might just look like a regular building down here, but have a look up. See what kind of ornate details you can find. I think those are old world buildings. Part of the inheriting of what was once there. Troy Laundry. Alright, and this is a Hotel Utah ballroom, so again, the interior finish, which I don't show a lot of in my videos, but I think I will start showing more because it gives you an idea of what we're dealing with, not just some brick building with some arched windows, but we're dealing with no square inch overlooked. Right, these days, what do you usually get? Some flat stock, flat-faced walls. Yeah, no, not here. Not then. Walker Bank building. So tried to get a few interiors of this. So this is us looking at the interior of that building. And you get a bit of an idea of the detail. And just a shadow of what it might once have looked like. There's not a lot. And of course the Walker Mansion. And the West High School. East and West High Schools both getting some old world inheritance. Well, Women's College, and we'll wrap it up here with the temple. So this is a look at Salt Lake City. Pretty much everything I could dig up on old world buildings. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.